Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Stratch Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the patch notes for 10.14. So, as always, if you enjoy the content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton. Check out the rest of the content on the channel as well. We stream every night starting around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, usually go till about 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'd love to have you. Very friendly, chill community. We also do patch notes, tier lists, champion guides, coaching sessions, and all sorts of other stuff on the channel as well. So, be sure to check all that out. Okay, let's go ahead and get in here. Okay, so they have a nice old chart for you telling you stuff they're not nerfing and buffing, and like why they're nerfing or buffing these different things. So like which skill ranges the stuff is, but we'll just go through and I'll just give you my sense on these things. And I'll talk about the new champion very briefly, kind of at the end of the video as well. There's not a ton of detail about her, but there's a little bit, so I'll just talk about her at the end. Okay, Alistar, 2 seconds off on Pulverize. I think this is a good idea. He has really long cooldowns on all of his abilities. He just pretty much, there's just no reason to play him right now when you compare him to stuff like Leona, Nautilus, Rakan, and a lot of your other engage options. He just doesn't bring anything that unique. I've been asked about him several times on the channel. And basically, like, he used to be like the premier engage because what he had was fairly unique, right? He had a point click engage, his WQ combo. It could knock up multiple people. It used to be a 1.5 stuns. It was a very reliable, on command stun. He could roam really well with mobility boots. And then some other stuff that set him apart. In the laning phase, he had very good sustain, not only for himself, but for his allies and the minions. Because his roar would happen, I think it was every 7th minion that died. It would roar and heal him. Or no, you could do it on command with your E. That was your E, and whenever you used your E, you got Trample, which gave you a little bit more wave clear. But basically, I think it lowered the cooldown on the E every minion that died around you. You could cast it. It was very cheap, so it was like 30 mana. Healed everybody. So not only did it give you personal sustain to help out against poke and your ally, but it also gave your minion wave sustain so that you would push really easily, and that enabled you to go roam and make plays around the map. So that was something that was kind of unique. A lot of other champs couldn't push for that cheaply and sustain. So he was very difficult to punish during the laning phase. And his ultimate made him virtually unkillable, which was unique. A lot of other tanks needed more items to get that kind of survivability. So he was able to tower dive early and really just engage into fights that other tanks would die in. So he could function on pretty much no items. So he could spend all of his items on mobility boots, wards, Oracle's Elixir way back in the day and stuff like that. But now all of that, has, changed over time, right? His combo is only a 1 second stun now. The other half a second, or I guess maybe 1 second after that, is conditional. You have to, like, stand near him with your E for long enough. Most people are going to get out of it before you stun him. And you don't heal the minions anymore, so it doesn't help you push. And they introduced Aftershock, so that pretty much every tank can now tank towers early on. And they also have Gargoyle Stoneplay, which pretty much makes you unkillable for an item. So he just really doesn't have a unique place in the meta anymore. It's just like everyone else either does more damage or has more CC or is more reliable. Everybody else just has stuff. So anyways, this should help out a little bit. This cooldown is a little bit better. Okay. Ezreal, so they are giving him an extra 3 seconds on his Arcane Shift. This is probably pretty fair. You gotta remember, it's not actually this long. Every time he lands spells on people, it reduces this by 1.5 seconds. So if you end up with 40% CDR, you get like, 0.6? 9.6 second cooldown. And then if you over the course of that, you land maybe 3 Qs or something like that, you're going to still be looking at like a 5 or 6 second cooldown. Whereas beforehand, you'd have, so that's 9.6. So it's really like a 2 second cooldown once you factor the CDR into it. And so, yeah, and then after you land your Qs and things like that, it'll make him a little bit more vulnerable if you're having to really kite people hard later on in the game. He can already stand really far back, though, and he can still kite, like, very well, especially with Iceborne Gauntlet. And it's so hard to blow him up with Death's Dance, Iceborne Gauntlet, and Conquer. He just has so much healing. It's going to hurt him a little bit, but I think he's still going to be really good if you're good on him. Now, in solo queue, it's kind of a meme with Ezreal. A lot of people just don't play him correctly. They E forward and die. They don't hit enough Qs. They build some funky items. But I still think he is going to be one of the best ADCs if you're proficient on him. He's not even that crazy right now in Pro. He's like close to a 50% win rate. But he's just very unique because he's super safe. And like all of his items, or a lot of his items, are utility items. So not only damage, but they do other things, right? So you've got Mana Immune, which is cheap, gives him basically unlimited mana. You have Iceborne Gauntlet if you go that route, gives him armor, gives him the ability to slow and kite people. If you go Trinity, that brings all kinds of extra things to him. Oh, thank you, Rory. You have Death Stance. Thank you. That's so nice. She brought me my phone. So I still think he'll be good. In the right hands. Okay, Karthus, a little bit of extra health, extra movement speed. The movement speed's a really big deal. So now he might be able to actually move and get away from people. Damage reduction to monsters, 15% on the Q. I don't know the exact breakpoints on that, but he's basically doing... Now it's double damage against isolated targets too, so it's going to be a 0.7 and 260 damage. So... It's probably a little bit less damage to monsters, but definitely more damage to champions and minions. Now, it's only monsters, so you could still push minions in the wave if you want to play them in mid lane. I don't think you're going to see a lot of it in mid lane. And you get the mana restore, so you don't have to toggle the E off and on, which is a nice little quality of life change. And then it's more checks over time, so it's a little more steady damage. I don't think this is enough to bring him back in. Like, one of the big problems, aside from all the nerfs, so he's had direct nerfs to almost every aspect of his kit. And then they nerfed out one of the runes, too. They took away Presence of Mind and its ability to get his cooldown really low when you combine that with Ulti Hunter. But aside from that, there are just so many different little things in the game right now that work against his ult. Everybody's got some kind of, like, you know, Zhonya's, or at least they at least have a stopwatch, or Hex Drinker, Edge of Night, Banshee's Veil, Locket, Redemption, any number of healing and shielding champs that are all super popular right now. Death's Dance delays it a little bit and has magic resist on it. There's just so many things out there. There's so many tanky, either flat out tanks or tanky type of champs that are getting Spirit Visage, Conquer, Triumph, Bloodline, Ravenous Hunter, Taste of Blood, Death's Dance, Blade of the Ruined King. There's just like a billion healing things out there right now. So it's just going to be really hard to catch people out and kill him. Like, yes, he still does a lot of damage. Yes, he still can be powerful. But I think just the meta shifting towards so much healing and so many resistances, even champs that are supposed to be, you know, historically built full damage, are getting these types of things. Like Ezreal's an example, who's building Death's Dance now, so he's even harder to kill. So yeah, it's nice, but I don't think it's going to be enough to bring him back. So definitely not in the jungle. I don't like him in the jungle at all in like lower elos, especially after some of the changes, but probably not even mid lane. Maybe there are some very specific matchups, but I don't think so. Okay, Kha'Zix. Isolation damage is up 120%. That's really good. That's a lot of extra damage. If he does get ahead, he can do a lot. But you just have to put a lot of games on him in solo queue to make him work properly. But it can be done if you practice him a lot. But I don't think this is all of a sudden going to jump him up to like tier 1. He's a little bit slow, I think, in early levels. He can get bullied out. It just depends. I'm not a Kha'Zix expert, but he doesn't bring a lot to the table if he's not really far ahead. So you have to get ahead early, and I'm just not sure if he's going to find as many opportunities in the current meta, but maybe. Okay, Pyke. Okay, magic resist is down a little bit. That doesn't matter. Armor growth down 1.5. That is pretty significant. By level 10, you're going to be losing 15 armor. So that's quite a bit later on. Okay, so what are they giving him? So the mana cost is down quite a bit in the early game. Okay, so you can spam your Q a little bit more. That's nice. Cooldown's down by 2 seconds early. Okay. Base damage is up by 10. Then you get 10 base damage here. So that's 20 on your all-in combo. And then 40% at all ranks. So basically, what's the incentive? Just the cooldown reduction, I guess, on W. So there's virtually no incentive to level up W now. So you're going to be maxing E second. I think a lot of times you were probably maxing E second. It's possible you're maxing W second, but I think it's overall a pretty good buff to support Pyke. I mean, if you get ahead with him early on, if you're really proficient at landing those hooks, you can get a lot of kills, especially against some of the squishy champs out there, the Lulus, the Janna, Sona, Soraka, stuff like that. If you get a hold of them, you can bust them up. And Umbral Glaive is extremely strong, great vision control. If you're able to get those resets and make some plays happen, I think that Pyke can be good. So this would be nice. This would probably be up a percentage or two here. So I think that's a pretty significant buff. Pretty good champ. So does roam very well, has supreme vision control with Umbral Glaive, his ability to go invisible, his safety, being able to jump over walls so you can get those deep wards, and you can clear out those river wards so you can rotate up and down the river. So I think Pyke is very, very good if you have a lot of squishy targets or you're going to be able to get some kills and get some resets. I think he can be very strong. Okay, Riven. This is quite a bit of extra damage. 5% of your total attack damage. And you trigger this a lot. So I'm not an expert on Riven, but I believe every time that you Q, you weave an auto attack in there. Like you cancel the Q animation, or you like auto attack and then you cancel your auto attack animation. So you don't cancel the auto itself, but you cancel the animation with your Q, or vice versa. Maybe you cancel the Q animation with your auto attack and then you Q again. It's like you can do this really quick combo where with your Q, if you hit them with all of them, it's going to trigger this 3 times, I believe. And then you have your W and your E can also trigger it. So in like one all-in, you're triggering this 5 times. That's like 25% of your extra total AD. So Riven's not in a crazy spot right now. I'm not entirely sure what's keeping her out. Maybe her numbers are just too low compared to other champs. Maybe this will help out with that. But you pretty much never see Riven right now. Maybe she's just getting outclassed by Set and some of the other more popular champs. But what is it, Roy? What is it? Find you what? That's what dad juice? I don't know what you're saying, Rory. You want me to find you something? Go ask mommy. Go ask mommy real quick. She'll figure it out.
No.
What is it, Rory? You can come over here if you want. Daddy's making a video right now.
Mom,
I don't know what you're saying, Rory.
Dad. You finding the juice?
You know what she's saying, dear?
I'm saying that's right. You find me the sweet juice?
I would love to do whatever you're asking me. You seem very excited about it, but I don't know what you're saying.
Nothing. You find me the sweet juice?
You wanting the Po? What are you asking for? Juice? You want juice?
You want me just for that juice, Dad?
I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is, Rory.
Please.
I don't know what it is, Rory, or I would give it to you. What do you... Say it a different way.
I think you can buy me that.
So, 15 extra damage on Sejuani.
You want me just for that juice? Dad,
Here, come here.
please.
Come here.
Please.
What do you want? Are you wanting some candy?
Yeah, I will want some penny.
Okay. Stun enemy champions cannot gain frost for 8 seconds. Okay. So it's 8 seconds total. Okay, you want some M&Ms from right here? Look. Okay. I mean, that's pretty good. I'll have to check out and see the rest of her kit. I feel like she's on the cusp. I see some pro players still trying her out. 15 extra damage is a lot. So remember, you can trigger this on everybody in a fight, basically. Just whenever they get enough stacks on them, you just EM boop. You can't stun the same person for 8 seconds, but that's decent. I thought they had something else coming her way, too. Maybe they took that off. We'll see. We'll see if she comes back. They're also nerfing Trundle, which is right below that. And Trundle is someone who's very strong, very popular, and extremely good against Sejuani. So it's like what happens is with Sejuani's passive, when she comes in, especially if she has Aftershock, which she almost always does, She gets like 300 armor and magic resist, and then when Trundle takes that with his R, the aftershock and her passive wear off after a couple of seconds. She can actually go into negative resist and just get deleted, basically, if they have Trundle. So maybe not like full on negative, but it's really really bad because it's going to steal 40%. Like if she has 100 natural armor and magic resist, and then those two things, her passive and aftershock, give her like 300, then he steals 40% of the 300. It snapshots it right there. So that's going to be 120 that he's going to steal. Then when she reduces back down to 100, it's still going to keep stealing the 120. So then she would actually go into negative 20 resist in that scenario. And I don't know if those aren't like obviously exact numbers, but that's a big part of why you're not seeing Sejuani. It is that she's a little out of the meta, but it's also that Trundle is very in the meta, and he is an extremely good pick. So maybe red side in pro play, you can pick this now if you know they're not going to pick Trundle. I still think Trundle would be pretty good into her, but anyways, 15 extra damage is a lot on that ability. So, and I think she usually maxes this last too. So that's basically going from 40 damage to 55 damage is a lot of extra damage. That doesn't include the percentage damage that you get on her passive. That was really what knocked her out of pro play contention, was that the percentage damage was reduced by a significant amount. It went from like 20% down to 15% or something. So anyways, maybe we see her back. It'll be interesting. I think this will help a lot. Not 100% she'll come back, but this should help her out quite a bit. Okay, Frozen Domain. So they lowered his movement speed. I think I messed that up a couple of patches ago. I thought it was the attack speed. It was actually the movement speed when I was talking about it. So she's not going to move as fast, or he's not going to move as fast, but the bonus attack speed is now going down at early ranks. Now, this is what you max second, so it's only very early on. So like at level 8 or so, it's only going to be, might be level 10. I think at level 10 it'll be 60. I don't know. I mean, it's going to matter. He's not like insanely good in pro, but he's pretty good in pro, so it'll probably knock a percentage off of him. It's starting to add up because they've nerfed him several times, but he'll probably still be like playable in the situations where you want to play him, but he's definitely going to be a lot weaker in the early game. Okay, Varus. Okay. So 150% total attack damage is going to 125 to 145. Okay. He's going to do a lot less damage with the Poke Varus build, which is pretty much what everybody's playing right now. To 135. Yeah. That might be the end of this. Minimum damage is always 66%. I don't know what it was beforehand. That's like if you just insta-shoot the arrow. He still has long attack range, and I still think the on-hit Varus could be good. I mean, there's a chance you could even see like the Manamune Varus. Manamune, Hurricane, Gensu's type of build. Blade of the Ruined King is still pretty popular, but people have started switching that out on like Twitch. Switching him over to, but I don't know how successful that is. The thing is, Manamune is a lot cheaper, so he could get to something like Gensu's faster and Hurricane faster. Now, those bolts, I don't know the exact amount, but those bolts, I have to math it out, might end up doing more damage with Manamune, because each Hurricane bolt is either going to apply Blade of the Ruined King or it's going to apply Manamune. Against lower health targets, the Manamune's almost certainly going to do more. I don't know. But maybe we go back to the on-hit build a little bit more. So maybe it's like Blade of the Ruined King, Hurricane Gensu's, or Manamune, Hurricane Gensu's. Or Manamune, Gensu's, Hurricane maybe. I'm not sure, but you might go back to the on-hit build a little bit more. And he does use the mana pretty well. He still would have nice wave clear. And then maybe with that, you're going back to maxing W and then Q. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's not dead. Maybe you still can go lethality, but that feels like that's a lot less damage. A lot in the early game. I mean, 15% total attack damage less at level 5 off your Q hits. I mean, I guess at level 9 it's the same basically. So maybe it's not a huge deal, but knocking off 20 damage early off of Hail of Blades, this is the last thing that you get, is quite a bit too. So you're losing 20 damage on this, and then right here you're probably, I mean, at early levels, 15% of your total attack damage. You're losing at least 15 damage here, and potentially closer to like 50 in the early game as you start scaling up. So that's a lot. So I don't think this is totally going to put him in the coffin, but I think it's going to be rougher on him, and it is possible that you start to see more on-hit Varus where people want him. Because the on-hit's still pretty good, I think. It's a lot more consistent. You don't have to hit your Qs. It's a lot less skill reliant for kind of average level play. And he still has his ult. You know, he still has the Grievous Wounds on the Hail of Arrows. So I don't know. I mean, maybe we just see Ashe a lot more in solo queue. The thing about Ashe versus Varus in Pro is that Varus's ult can hit multiple people potentially in team fights. It forces everyone to spread out versus Ashe is just going to hit one person with the arrow. That's kind of the biggest difference, I think. I don't know. Maybe we do see a little bit more Ashe in Pro play, because Ashe can do, like with her Q, she can do some decent poke. Not as much as Varus with his Q, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay, Volibear. Attack speed going down. This is good. He doesn't get a lot of attack speed modifiers, though. This is mostly going to affect the modifiers. But I see him usually going, like, Gunblade's kind of popular. Death Stance. Black Cleaver. He doesn't usually get attack speed items, so this is going to slow down his clear a little bit. He is going to do a bit less damage, but it's mostly his spells, because his Frenzy is not correlated with his auto attacks. It's just a separate ability, and that's what does a lot of his damage. So this is nice. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference just because he doesn't get attack speed stuff, but it'll slow him down a little bit. Then the heal is reduced by 50% on minions and monsters. Okay. I mean, that'll make him a little bit, you know, in his first couple of clears, maybe it matters a little bit more. But he's still going to be super strong. He'll still be like 53 or 54% in the jungle. So this matters, but it's not really hitting the stuff that's crucial to his kit. It's just slowing his speed down a little bit, making him a little bit less safe on the first couple of clears. Wukong. So the knock-up is going down to 0.6. So they're in the air for literally 15 hundredths of a second each time he does it. Maybe. I don't know. I feel like this is not going to matter that much. I mean, sometimes these knock-up effects, they can have a lot more impact than you think. Like when they did this to Alistar and made it a 1 second knock-up instead of a 1.5. Or I guess it was always a 1 second, but it used to stun for an additional half a second when he landed. You know, it virtually killed him. And it was the same thing with Zyra. It hurt her so much when they changed it from a 1.5 second CC to 1 second. So sometimes some of these things feel like they're not that big of a deal, but those were half a second. This is only 0.15. I still think he's going to be really strong. You know, he still has multiple dashes, and then he's got the Cyclone he can activate twice to interrupt things. And he just does a ton of damage, a lot of utility. He can shred armor for his team. He can stack, you know, Black Cleaver stacks really well, so I still think he'll be pretty good. Okay, Zed. Now, this is pretty significant on Zed, I think. This shadow movement speed right here is huge. This is one of the big things they nerfed about him back in the day. That is a lot of extra speed. So what this is his shadow when he throws it out, when he's, you know, going to throw his shurikens, or when he's trying to escape or trying to gap close on people. That's a lot faster now. It's like 50% faster. So that's a very, very good quality of life for Zed. And then his Living Shadow is down 2 seconds early on. Okay, that's going to allow him to be a little bit safer, maybe throw out some more harassment. I'm not really sure what's holding him back. He's banned sometimes. It's kind of like Karthus-esque where there's just feels like there's a lot more counterplay to him than there used to be, where people can have Edge of Night or Stopwatch, Hourglass, some kind of shielding, some kind of delayed damage with Death's Dance, that type of thing, and just people are just getting tankier in general. So I'm not really sure what's up with that, but I think that's good. I think Zed is one of the more fair assassins out there. Just because you can dodge his shurikens, there is some counterplay to that. And if he's not like ultra fed, if he doesn't hit you with all those shurikens, you're probably not going to die. I feel like there's more counter to Zed, in other words, than something like Talon or, some of the other assassins that are out there. I guess Fizz, you can still dodge his fish to some extent, but I think Zed's one of the more interesting assassins out there, so I'm okay with that. I'd much rather see Zed be something that's popular and pretty strong than something like LeBlanc. LeBlanc just drives me up the wall. Okay, runes. Extra 10 damage. Okay, actually up to extra 30, so 10 to 30, that's quite a bit. And then the cooldown is going to 90 seconds, which is very significant, down to 60. So who would want something like this? I mean, I don't know, like your Skarners, maybe your Hecarim in the jungle. There's a couple of champs that would obviously be kind of interested in this. I mean, like, something like Maokai might be interested in something like this. I don't know. I feel like you need Aftershock. I'm thinking like support Maokai or even jungle Maokai. The problem for me that they need to get rid of is they need to get rid of that announcement for junglers where you have the little thing over your head and it makes the noise so people know you're coming. Just get rid of that. Just let them roll up on you. If they don't have proper vision, you get them. That's what I think. I just think it's just too much of a handicap just letting them know that you're near, because it's so much harder to like flank people like that. So I don't know. Maybe you'll see it with Ingenious Hunter. Maybe it'll roll back up. But probably won't be a widespread thing. Okay, Summoner Spells, Ghost. Okay, it's getting extra 4%, so it didn't take over as much as I thought it was going to take over last patch. I still think that Darius is very strong with it, obviously. Singe is very strong with it, obviously. But even something like Twisted Fate could take something like this and get good use out of it. I think there are a lot of mages that potentially could do this, and maybe even some ADCs that could potentially benefit from this. And I mentioned some of them last time. Something like a Vayne, or maybe even an Ashe. Just things that need to auto attack a lot and just kind of reposition. Might be able to take advantage of these types of things. So I don't know necessarily that everyone would want it, but I think there are definitely some cases where it could be more useful on some champs than it might at first appear. Okay, then Conquer, Clash. Okay. Bug fixes. I don't see that much going on there. Okay. I thought they were changing one or two other things about like summoner spells. Maybe not. Runes. I can't remember. But anyways, okay. So that's interesting. I think not going to be too meta defining. If I had to try to pick, I think that Pyke's support will be a little bit better here. So that's one of the big winners. Riven for one tricks could be a big winner. I think Sejuani is one of the more interesting ones, especially for pro play. And the Zed for solo queue could be kind of interesting. So we'll see. All right, new champ. I'll be honest with you. I'm not that impressed with looking at her. I know I'm supposed to hype everything up, but to me, I'll have to see her in action. But there's just not a lot of stuff that jumps out to me like, wow, this is really unique, right? Or there's like a lot of synergy between these abilities. And a lot of it, she's just going to be a numbers champ, I feel like. Like, if her numbers are really strong, then she might be really good. But other than that, it doesn't look like she's bringing any utility, like, not that much. I was really disappointed. It was when I heard, like, an enchanter type of thing. I was thinking something like Ivern. I was like, okay. Because Ivern's, like, really unique and really interesting. I think Ivern has great design. They've nerfed his numbers down a little bit more than I think they should. But Ivern was, like, really cool and still is very cool in the jungle and great design. but she is just like primarily just a damage dealer. It looks like, with like a couple of like wimpy looking pieces of CC as far as I can tell. So her passive is deals a portion of the target's maximum health as magic damage over a duration. So like probably 3 seconds does, I don't know, 3% of their max health, 1% per second. Okay, so just like super boring for the most part. Okay, just extra numbers. Okay, swings or branch deals magic damage to nearby enemies, deals true damage to people at the outer edge, lands the attack. Okay, so she does gain some movement speed. So I guess, so it's kind of like Hecarim, I guess, but you can kite and stick to him a little bit better. I guess that's kind of interesting depending on the cooldown. I imagine this is something that's spammable. I don't like true damage at all. I think it's just really toxic for the game. I think max HP damage is way better because then it's not as good against low health targets versus true damage is good against everybody. And just bypasses, you know, a major component of the game, resistances. Okay. Well, maybe that's a little more interesting than I thought. I guess, you know, you can kite people or you can run them down with that. It's still not, like, that amazing, I don't think, but it's interesting. Okay, so true damage potential, otherwise magic damage. Okay. Winds up for a huge strike with her branch, dealing magic damage to enemies. Enemies at the center receive more damage. Okay, so it's kind of close range, it looks like. So, like, what, 300 range? You've got a circle, and then she just jumps at you. So she jumps to that one area, and if you're there, it doesn't look like it's like a gap closer or anything, right? She just kind of looks like she walks up, and it's hard for me to tell if she's even like, if she just targets that area then runs up, or if she just automatically like goes there. It looks like it's very slow. It looks like she's just walking up after she presses it. I don't know. Okay, extra damage. So it's like, I don't know, a skill shot hit, but she goes forward for it. Okay. Lobs a swirl seed overhead, dealing magic damage and slow them for a duration. Okay. So you just throw a skill shot that slows, and if you miss, it can hit somebody else. Okay. And then, Lilting Lullaby. Lilia casts a lullaby over her enemies, and those affected by her dream dust become increasingly slowed and fall asleep. Okay, so the Zoe treatment, basically. When awakened by damage, enemies take additional damage. So basically like an AoE Zoe bubble. Over her...
Whoa! Okay. Here you go, baby. You're welcome. What?
Leah casts Lullaby over her enemies and those affected by her dream dust. Okay. So what happens if they're not affected? They just take damage? And those affected by her dream dust become increasingly slow to take damage. Okay, so... yeah, so the combo, like they're saying, is just like you hit people with stuff. Wait, does it put a mark on them? Okay, so that's her circle, that's her swirl. She didn't hit the Swain with the swirl, though, I don't think. Hit him with the slow. Okay, yeah, I guess Swain was hit by the circle. Slowed, and then you go in for the power hit. Okay. They take extra damage. Alright, so I mean, that's the combo, is like, you slow them down, you hit them with the Q, and then you put them to sleep, then power hit them. Okay. I mean, okay, so a lot of this is just basically going to come down to numbers. So, I mean, one of the more interesting things, I guess, is that you can kite with your Q, so... we're just gonna have to see what her numbers are. But yeah, it doesn't look like it's like, it looks like a very simple kit. Which I guess a lot of people would like that. I think they were deliberately trying to make something that was a little more simple. But okay, I mean, she just doesn't, like, if her numbers are really wild, like, I guess, you know, you'll have to pick her. Like, she's got some good potential against tanks. She's got the max health, the true damage. She can kite them out pretty well, put them to sleep in team fights. You know, the AoE sleep's probably like a 120-second cooldown or something, at least. Looks like she's going to have a hard time, like, gap closing and getting on people. Like, she's going to have to throw her Q if she's ganking. And if she misses that, I don't know how she gets to people. Unless she's just like, because she doesn't have anything that speeds her up. Other than if you hit people with your Q. I guess, can you hit minions with the Q? Or is it just champions? Okay, so I guess you can hit minions with it. And, like, get up closer to people. If that's on, like, a 4-second cooldown or something early. I guess maybe that lets you stick. But you don't have any hard CC. Like, you have the slow, but outside of that, you don't have any hard CC except for your ult. So, it feels like it's going to be really easy to outplay her or dodge her on ganks. I don't know. If her numbers are nuts, we'll have to, you know, she could be good. But otherwise, she doesn't seem that crazy to me unless her numbers are, you know, once again crazy. It's kind of like a cross between Hecarim and Zoe, sort of. Like, the Q reminds me of Hecarim, and the sleep, obviously, is, like, right out of Zoe's playbook, but it's AoE, and you have to have a condition first before you cast it on somebody. But anyways, okay. Well, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Be sure to like and subscribe if you did. Come by, check out the stream. Starts at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every night, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day.